Deep in the canyons of southwestern Colorado lies a place shaped by centuries of innovation. For years, the people who lived here built their homes within the cliffside, creating a vast network of villages across the region. These homes were more than just shelters. They were marvels of engineering at the time of their construction. What's most surprising, however, is that the people who built these incredible structures only lived in them for around 100 years before suddenly moving away and leaving it all behind. Why did the native people choose this location as their home? How did they transform the cliffs into bustling villages? And what ultimately drove them to leave after building such an impressive community? This is the story of Mesa Verde. Despite its name, Mesa Verde isn't actually a mesa. Instead, it's a cuesta, which is a landform with a gently sloping surface rather than a flat top. And it just so happens that the cuesta at Mesa Verde slopes to the south, providing the area with more direct sunlight, warmer conditions, and a growing season around 20 days longer.
And I bet these people experimented. Why not try to grow down there? And it didn't work because they found you needed that sun and you get a little more moisture, a little more rain up here than you would down on the plains or in the canyons.
For this reason, the native people didn't actually start out living in cliff dwellings. Instead, they lived next to their fields on top of the cuesta in dwellings known as pithouses. One of the main advantages of living in a pit house is that because it's underground, the interior stayed cooler in the summers and warmer during the winters. Usually around 4 feet deep, these homes were built with a wooden frame and coated in a thick layer of mud known as adobe. Because the mud required a significant amount of water to mix and apply, the plastering of the walls and roof was likely done in the spring when water was most readily available. For around 200 years, the basket makers lived quite prosperously before making their first major architectural development.
All of that kind of coalesced into the great experiment. Growing corn worked because you wouldn't have this down here or any of these cliff dwellings if it wasn't for farming here. So that's what allowed them to be sedentary and to develop their division of labors. And now look what they left for us to ponder.
After centuries of living in pit houses, Pueblo homes began to gradually evolve into more vertical structures. Initially, these buildings were constructed using similar techniques as the pit houses. However, over time, stone blocks replaced wood as the primary building material, and adobe was used more as a cement for the walls. By around 850 AD, most people at Mesa Verde were living in above-ground stone homes. It's unclear why the transition to stone masonry occurred, especially because the process required much more time and labor, but whatever the reason, the widespread adoption of masonry laid the groundwork for Mesa Verde's most recognizable structures.
Because there was a phenomena that went on throughout the Four Corners area. People were living in little hamlets, like in Barview, so little farm plots. And for some reason, in the late 1100s, they started to come together in bigger communities. And the phenomena manifested itself up here by coming into the cliffs. So these people were spread out before they moved into the cliffs, and they're starting to come into the cliffs. And there's some cultural reasons for that. Maybe not some violence, not warfare in the sense of violence, but there was some upheaval, some unrest.
Beginning around 1200 AD, the Pueblos began building their homes in the natural alcoves of the canyon walls. Formed by natural springs, the transition may have been for better defense, better protection from the elements, easier access to water, or even cultural or religious reasons. Interestingly, the shift into cliff dwellings meant that people now walked to and from their fields, whereas the previous 600 years, they had lived next to their fields and walked to retrieve water. Well-traveled paths would have connected the fields and various cliff dwellings, forming a community across the whole Mesa Verde region.
The people at Balcony House knew the people at Hemingway House. They knew the people at the Palace, of Long House, of Spruce Tree House. They were neighbors. They were contemporaries. It takes strong communities to live out here in places like Mesa Verde. So of course they would have known each other and they would have had that exchange of ideas.
It's thought that Cliff Palace, the largest and most famous cliff dwelling in Mesa Verde, may have been a governmental or administrative center which had high ceremonial use. Other cliff dwellings like Balcony House likely would have been home to up to 30 people.
Think about that. Every stone, piece by piece by piece. This place was built by hand using stone tools. Some of the stones do not exist within this alcove. They would have had to either been brought from the valley bottom or from the mesa top. You can see how square many of these blocks are. You can see the texture where a mason with a hammer chiseled and formed these stones.
Despite the immense amount of time and effort it took to build the cliff dwellings, within just 100 years, they had already been abandoned. Archaeologists speculate that drought, resource depletion, and social conflicts may have played a role in the Pueblos' departure. But according to Pueblo oral history, they were simply continuing their people's journey. A strong desire to move south had arisen, and it was time for them to go. Whatever the reason, the Pueblos moved into present-day New Mexico and Arizona after over 700 years of living in the Mesa Verde region and only 100 years of living in the cliff dwellings. The thing that strikes me most about the story of Mesa Verde is the constant passing down of knowledge from one generation to the next. Each innovation in Pueblo architecture built on the skills and techniques that came before it, eventually culminating in the cliff dwellings we see today. But this exchange of knowledge isn't unique to the Pueblos. You see it in all cultures around the world in every time period. Mesa Verde reminds us how far humans have come and how important it is to record our history and knowledge so that future generations can build on it.